Alright, so here's the meditation from this day, the 19th of May. Yes, written this day, the 19th of May. 10 years ago today, commemorated this day, the 19th of May, 2014. And I've already written a post in the blog where these videos are being recorded on YouTube because there's a seamless connection between YouTube and Blogger, which is a Google supported site, or so part of the Google package, or whatever you want to call it. Google world is YouTube as well as Blogger. So I'm recording these videos here, these documentary commemorative videos of the writing that I did 10 years ago, which was a daily writing, an experiment, here on YouTube, and then putting them in my blog. And on my blog you can get, if you're interested in, for some of my commentary as well as context. And I've already written the post, so anyway, go to the blog if you're interested in reading some further context material written today on this 19th day of May. So picking it up where we left off, and we're in the chapter in the book Being and Learning, where this material was eventually published about 7 years after I'd completed it. We're in chapter 6, I believe, the saying of the sage. The poetic dialogue that cultivates this community of peace and freedom is a learning that unfolds from painstaking hearing. In order to grasp the full range of this meaning of hearing, we must envision beyond the distinction made between audio and visual, and imagine the working relation between sight and sounds, and focus our attention on this originary hearing as the essence of reception. Learning is grounded in the reception of the other as otra. In this reception we are attuned to the other, which we receive in silence. To hear the other as otra is to receive the ineffable. The ineffable is the root of learning, the destiny and destination of learning as that which beckons silence, by appealing and submitting itself to painstaking listening. In receiving this appeal, even the poet is reposed, released into the freedom of hearing, from which he will sing his song. Holderlin says, "So I renounced and sadly see, where words break off, no thing may be." And Heidegger responds, "The poet has learned renunciation. To learn means to become knowing. In Latin, knowing is qui vidit, one who has seen, has caught sight of something, and who never again loses sight of what he has caught sight of. To learn means to attain to such seeing. To this belongs our reaching it, namely, on the way, on a journey. To put oneself on a journey to experience means to learn." And that's from Heidegger. We are misled and find ourselves, and will soon encounter a dead end if we ocularize this definite moment of renunciation, when the poet renounces his capacity to speak in view of that where words break off. Indeed, the poet sadly sees, but this seeing is a reception before the visual, before the audio. This seeing is a learning and the reception of the ineffable, of no thing. This reception is a repositioning, the reposing which unfolds when the learner is held out before nothing. The reception of the ineffable is thus the hearing of evocative saying. But to hear the evocative saying is to have the unfathomable depth of possibility open up before one. To learn is to have caught sight of this profound opening, and to be made profoundly open. Learning gets underway when we are made profoundly open and receptive to the other. This purposeful wandering along the proper way of fellowship is the response to Heidegger's questions. Quote, "On what journeys does the poet attain his renunciation?" Through what land do his journeys lead the traveler? Unquote. The purposeful journey along the way, Tao, is put underway and continues to unfold by the directive of painstaking hearing, the listening that is gathered by the evocative saying of the sage, who leads this journey by pointing to what is already not yet heard. The poet's renunciation enacts the reception of the evocative as pointing away from the immediate and towards that which has not yet appeared. That which has not yet appeared, which remains hidden and concealed, yet always ready to be wrested from hiding, is called wisdom. The poet's renunciation signifies the dignified calm of freedom as the waiting for the arrival of wisdom. This waiting identifies the dialogic nature of poetic dwelling. To wait for the arrival of wisdom is to remain steadfastly open to what remains in excess. Steadfast openness is thus the renunciation of the static, the ongoing reception of what exceeds, and the ongoing reception of what exceeds the immediate. The evocative nature of poetic saying is a pointing to this excess of meaning. To offer an evocative saying is to offer that which is pregnant with meaning and thereby to enjoin others in dialogue. The offering of the sage estranges or makes strange, addresses the visitor as other. But as mediator, the sage is capable of estranging the visitor insofar as he remains strange to himself. The poet's renunciation of her capacity to speak identifies her remaining strange to herself. What is more strange than a poet who remains silent, who is unable to speak? In this modality of estrangement, the poet is most poetic. The silence that unfolds from her renunciation marks her releasement from the immediacy of language, and in this releasement she is free. The poet's freedom, her most poetic comportment, unfolds when she renounces her words and submits them to the painstaking listening of the other. Quote, the more poetic the poet is, the freer, that is, the more open and ready for the unforeseen, unquote from Heidegger. To be ready for the unforeseen is to submit oneself to the listening of the other. To submit oneself to the listening of the other is to be released from one's sayings as one's sayings and to take up the position of the mediator. The mediator has renounced the claim upon his words, his own saying, as his own. To renounce is to give up or put aside voluntarily. Renounce is derived from Latin, renuntiare, to bring back word. Nuntiare is to announce, and this is derived from nuntius, messenger, news. When the poet says, so I renounced, he resigns himself to the role of one who receives in silence. To sadly see is the manner in which the poet bears the provocation which marks the arrival of the ineffable. To be evoked by the ineffable is to be gathered before the no-thing where words break off. To be held out before the no-thing is to be reposed in silence. But this provocation gives way to wonder, to sublime awe. The poet's renunciation marks the emergence of the sage, the one who cheerfully, not sadly, endures the bearing of the message, the tidings, the news. But in delivering the message, the sage conveys the renunciation by bringing back word, by conveying the appearance of the ineffable, by estranging his visitors. To be messenger, nuntius, is to renuntiare, to bring back word. Nuntius renuntiare, this names the poetic dwelling of the sage. The sage as a teacher is most poetic because she has been released from the claiming modality, from the desire to bear down upon language. She is released by the appeal of language, which makes a claim upon her as the one who conveys the imminent arrival of wisdom. And that's where it ends this day, the 19th of May, recorded this day on the 2014, written 10 years ago today.